All right, folks, welcome back in. This is Yankees Unloaded. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, joined by my co-host, as always, Gary Sheffield Jr. He might be frozen in carbonite, though, in this episode, like straight out of Empire Strikes Back. But Gary he just arrived in New York, so let's give him a break here. He's been traveling a lot. I'm actually going to meet him for the first time. He's going to meet me for the first time tomorrow. Hopefully we meet some of you guys. We're going to be going to tomorrow's game. And Gary, I got to start off by saying, how storybook would it be? Because remember, we started off this show and we're like, oh my God, they haven't lost when we've done podcasts. And we just started this show.
Right.
How just like perfect would it be if tomorrow they end up locking up the AL East when we're there? We hadn't gone to any games all year. Boom, we go to that one.
It would be pretty insane, and I hope you guys can hear me because I'm in a basement on Bangladesh Wi-Fi, but it is what it is, and we know you guys are. We have a great group of listeners, that's for one, that is very supportive. Obviously, our monetization's back, so you guys are back watching ads and whatnot. But I will say this about this Yankees team. Today it felt like watching the Yankees of 3 years ago, where periodically there was a big hit from a big name, and then you had role players forgetting that they're role players, right? That's what the theme was today. I thought Schmidt was really good. He was sharp. Obviously, you give up a couple runs early, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a team that when you have guys, and Gleyber Torres is a player that we've given a ton of credit to, but when you walk out onto the field and you get into a rundown and you get hosed at the plate in a pickle when Aaron Judge is coming up to the plate, these are things that should never happen in September. I've mentioned that maybe spring training, maybe a month into the season, these are mistakes that your manager gets out front of and says, this is just unacceptable. You're talking about mid to late September. Why are we still talking about these type of mistakes? They just should never happen, Jake. And for anyone who watched that, I'm sorry you had to see it, but it loses you baseball games in September. I don't care if you're playing the Orioles, who frankly aren't winning any games. That we're not going to beat teams making those type of mistakes. So we just hope tomorrow we don't see that. I'm not bringing my wife to the game so we can see that. Jake, I hope we don't see that live.
We're not going to see it live tomorrow. I really don't see it. Nestor will be on the mound. I feel good about tomorrow. I feel like tomorrow, I've never been to a game in which they've clinched a AL East or anything like that. So I don't know if we'll start seeing crazy celebrations at the end of the game, but that would be cool. But no, I don't think we see that tomorrow. It was a weird day, Gary, because I felt like this game was very winnable for the Yankees, and it never really got away. They had every opportunity and they blew it up. And give a shout out to Aaron Judge hitting his 56th home run right after Michael Kay, and the graphics, they're showing the 55 club or whatever, how many times these guys have hit 55 or more. And then he hit 56 right after that. But yeah, today was it was frustrating because, you end up leaving six on base, and that's not really as bad as it's been in the past. And you go 3 for 7 in runners in scoring position, and you get a double out of Rizzo, and Torres gets 3 hits, and you're thinking, okay, they have some juice, but Torres, it's really unfortunate. I thought he had a great game at the plate. Unfortunately, that decision to just go on his own, because he's held up at third, for those of you who didn't see it, by third base coach. He's held up at third, does not advance. Then the ball is thrown back over to second to try to cut off the runner going to second. And he should have gone back to third, but he took it upon himself, was not waved home. He took it upon himself to try to score. And it didn't work at all because they threw right to third and got him into a pickle. It wasn't like he was gunned out at home. It looked worse than that. Like if he was gunned out at home and it was a bang, bang play, okay, fine. But I think it's the nature. And I mean, it's still bad that he got thrown out. But I think it makes it worse, Gary, the way he was thrown out. No one wants to get into a pickle. It looks like the worst. It's honestly one of the most unprofessional looking things in any sport. I'm just going to be honest with you.
It looked really bad, yeah.
it looks so bad because it doesn't matter how great of an athlete you are. Getting into a pickle just looks really dumb. So today was frustrating, and the lineup
Can I
was a
slow
little.
that play down though? Because I feel like
Yeah,
people are kind of glossing over what happened on the play.
of course.
There were actually two things wrong with the play, in my opinion. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Juan Soto, you can make the argument he was going to be safe at second base. But let me say this. If you're Juan Soto, why would you be trying to advance to second base in that situation on a potential throw home, given who's hitting after you? Think about it this way. Juan Soto could take off to second base, right? He takes off to second base. He gets to second base. No one's being waved over to home. Gleyber Torres is now staying at third.
Yeah.
If Juan Soto is safe, Aaron Judge is being walked. So
Exactly.
what's the reward to getting to second base? There is none. We've seen so many times. There have been so many instances of Juan Soto being hosed at second base in that situation. And then him going to second base, already making a mistake in itself right then, is now causing Gleyber Torres to think, oh, the throw's being made to second base. I'm going to be a hero, not knowing who's coming up. Gleyber Torres' job, management's job, is to tell the players and have them have an understanding, a basic understanding, who is coming up to the plate. These are mistakes, frankly, that shouldn't happen no matter who's coming up. But when a player with 56 home runs is coming up to the plate, who eventually flies out to the track, obviously next inning, these things just can never happen. They can't. It totally changes the complexion of the game. And I understand, like, some people look at this and say, oh, well, thank goodness. Aaron Judge did end up flying out to the track. Ball was caught in the right center gap. Great. But what they don't talk about is how the entire complexion of the inning is flipped on its head if Judge shows up with a man on third and first with 2 outs. It changes everything. So very disappointing. I'm disappointed in Gleyber Torres, but also I'm not going to stop there. I'm disappointed in Aaron Boone. These are things you need to be telling your players, and maybe, I guess maybe, management would tell you the players kind of do these things on their own. It's all about the feel of the game. Well, when you have a player who's in year 6 or 7 of their career and they've been playing under your watch this entire time, those feel it out plays, instinct plays that you kind of talk about in the locker room after, these should be shored up after this much time. So I just think in general, it's just a poor reflection on our leadership and our mental ability to stay in the game.
I think that's fair. And I don't know if you saw the graphic that came up, but Gleyber has been thrown out at home, tied for most in the league with Yandy Diaz at 6. So it hasn't always been Gleyber, though. I think the third base coach thinks he's faster than he is. And I forget, is that Rojas? I don't know. I blank on first base and third base coaches. I think one of them is Nevin. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know names, but
it was Phil Nevin at one point.
Yeah.
I have no idea who's over there. And I know people are going to say, you really don't know who your third base coach is? No, I don't. I watch every game every single day. We podcast every day. You guys watch us do that. I've got no clue who's over there because someone new will be over there in 2 years and they're just going to do a Dookie Water job per usual. So, and again, I don't want to blame this on the coach because as you mentioned, Jake, he was held at third base. There shouldn't have been a play at third. Juan Soto, like I said, was probably narrowly safe at second base. So you're talking about third and second with 2 outs, Judge coming up, clearly gets walked, and then you get a bases loaded at bat after that. So, yeah, it was just a lack of situational awareness, and it costs you in games like this, regardless of how a team is playing. They're going to beat you, right? Baltimore has enough talent to make us pay for mistakes like that. They did exactly that.
So I did look it up. I was right somehow. Luis Rojas at third, but Nevin just made me sound like an idiot because it's actually Travis Chapman at first. So I didn't know who that was before. Okay. I've heard of Matt Chapman and Aroldis Chapman, but I've never heard of Travis Chapman. But anyway, Judge. Okay, I don't know if you saw the quote, thought it was interesting, thought I should bring it to the table. Judge is I mean, this is kind of mean, but Judge is basically an NPC when they interview him. Like, let's just call it like it is. He just says, yeah, you know, my teammates, the guys, yeah. It's just like the same thing every time. This is a little different. So he was asked about Gleyber Torres' rundown play and said, quote, when it comes down to it, stuff like that can't happen. We can't keep shooting ourselves in the foot with mistakes like that on the base paths. But it happened, and we've got to move on and get ready for tomorrow. I like this. And why do I feel like I never hear this type of thing from Judge? I never hear get ready for tomorrow. I always hear like, yeah, you know, just it happened and just move on. And there's just something about this quote that felt different. I don't know if it's because we're getting closer to October, but do you know what I'm saying, or am I going crazy? Like, you let me know.
No, you're not. Normally, when they ask Aaron Judge a question, you get the Derek Jeter vibe where it's almost like you're talking to a politician or a state representative, where you ask them a question, and rather than getting an answer that you clearly know a human being may give you, they're going to give you an answer that you can do nothing with, right? Because New York media, we tend to look into things and read into things a little extra compared to all these other markets. So having said that, you talk to Aaron Judge, he kind of just puts a half smirk on, goes, yeah, you know, yeah, a lot of, you know,
every time.
And he's a cool dude, but
yeah,
part of that strategy just creates zero distraction. You just can't even, what's there to talk about? There's nothing to talk about. It's almost, I would almost venture on to say I wouldn't even want to interview him, right? And it's not that he's not a great player, but if he's not going to give me anything, but in this instance, he's essentially saying, we can't do this if I'm going to go where I need to go, which is to become a winner. And if he becomes a winner, everybody else becomes a winner. So this isn't really as selfish as maybe some people might make it look. But I told you before, Jake, if Aaron Judge doesn't win a title in New York, this being a captain and all this stuff, he's going to be viewed as not a failure, but it's going to be seen as we're shortchanged a little bit with this career. He has to win. And to win, role players need to be role players and play smart. That's a prerequisite to being a role player. If you can't do the little things, right? If you can't drop down a bunt, if you can't go the other way, get a ball in the air for a sac fly, field your position, right? Understand the outs, knowing not to get hosed at the plate in front of Aaron Judge. These basic, it's really just basic strategy. If you can't hone in on that, you don't have a future with the team, and B, in the short term, we can't win. We've seen so many teams in Major League Baseball have enough talent to win, and then you go out there and they'll make a boneheaded decision, whether it be from their manager or players on the field. They'll just make losing plays, and it just is between the ears. It's not even striking out or hitting homers. It is like flat out not understanding what to do on the baseball field. So, yeah, I love that Aaron Judge said this. I think it's a clear message, and I think Gleyber Torres gets it.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And he said it knowing, if anything, he's not addressed these things in the past. So I'm sure he's probably like, all right, well, we got to give him at least one thing. And this is, I think Jack Curry said it the best. It didn't decide the game, but it halted their momentum. And momentum is everything in any sport. Looking at this game, though, and speaking of halting momentum, Alex Verdugo. You wanted to touch on Alex Verdugo. And I got to be honest with you, coming off an off day, the fact Jason Dominguez has only played games I can count on my hands, in the MLB this year, to give him an off day after an off day is just insanity to me. Absolutely insane. What say you?
I don't even think it's considered an off day. I think this is considered a healthy scratch, right? In the NFL, we call this a healthy scratch. Yeah, that guy didn't get any burn. Aaron Boone chose not to play this player. Why? What's the reasoning? We don't understand. This is not an off day. He doesn't need to be refreshed. This is a young player, right? He's in his early 20s. Off day yesterday. Now we show up in today and he doesn't play and you bring him off the bench. What strategy are you deploying? I'm trying to understand it, in which we watch this team. We watch it every day. What is it that Alex Verdugo provided today? And I understand he had a hit, and you mentioned this, but what is it about this player that he does? And we've taken a look at what he does defensively. It's not special. It's not, right? We've also been somewhat critical or open-minded to the fact that Jason Dominguez may not be the best left fielder or center fielder we've ever seen. But I'll tell you this, the gap between Verdugo and Dominguez defensively is not wide enough to possibly give away starts this late in the season. Absolutely putrid job in that department, figuring out who to play in left field. That is just a shame. It should never happen. And fortunately, I would venture to say, Jake, that the opportunity for Verdugo to play tomorrow is about zero. It just shouldn't happen, but it should have been zero today. So I guess I'm going to keep an open mind for what we see.
Now, what's funny is that while, we're definitely, we're going to the game tomorrow and I love Austin Wells, I can kind of see Trevino playing tomorrow. I can. Now, I think it's more justifiable to play Trevino than it is Verdugo. And the reason I say that is because right now, Austin Wells is just in a crater of a slump. He's hitting 130 in the month of September. So
this is true.
I wouldn't be against just kind of giving him a reset. I really wouldn't, because right now it's 0 for 4, 0 for 4, 0 for 4. I'm not out on him, right? But he's probably considering that, Cowser hit a home run today. Cowser now is ahead of him in batting average. He's played well down the stretch. He's probably lost the AL Rookie of the Year if he had it. So it is what it is. But for whatever reason, Austin Wells is just not hitting well in September. And I guess really my point is I used to have an issue anytime I saw Trevino in the lineup, but it goes back to what we were saying. If Alex Verdugo is hitting 340 or something, I don't need to see Dominguez over Verdugo. It also doesn't mean that I don't have to see Dominguez, period. I could put him somewhere else. The point is, if Verdugo was hitting really well, I would understand it. It just feels like now, it's like when Boone puts him in there, and especially over Dominguez and doesn't have Dominguez in the lineup, it feels like he's almost trying to send a message like, just because you guys think that Jason Dominguez has taken over as a starter, he hasn't yet. And I don't like it. So wanted to hit on that, but, Gary, Clarke Schmidt does not give up more than 3 runs in a game. I don't know why. It's crazy, but he has not given up more than 3 runs all year. And
talent, brother.
Once again, I thought he looked awesome today and had just a couple unfortunate, and actually the 2 hardest hit balls, I believe, were both really inside pitches that just they crushed. But you just have to tip your cap sometimes to the hitter. I mean, it's right there inside at your ribs, and they're turning on that. And it's like, that's not necessarily a pitch that I think, Clarke Schmidt was even really, I think he was using that pitch to set up other pitches. So just watching him today, I thought he had good stuff. I think the runs don't really, even though he only gave up 3, the runs don't really indicate how well he played and how well he pitched. I know he wants the home run back. I get that, but there's a reason why this guy lands a 2.55 ERA right now. He's been great. The bullpen, Gary, was a little concerning. I mean, they've been great for the better part of, half a month, more than almost a month.
Yeah.
And Mesa got hit a little bit. Leiter Jr., although he didn't give up a run, but Hamilton, the home run. It was just a little different today, I will say. I'm not concerned. I think the biggest concern I would have is if they needed Luke Weaver in this game to close it out and he blew a save and gave up 3 runs. I think that would be really concerning. But the Orioles, they needed this. I think today they actually clinched a playoff spot with this win. So they absolutely, they needed this. And the Yankees can go and do it tomorrow when we're in attendance.
Yeah. So as far as Clarke Schmidt is concerned, he was good enough to win a game. Again, we're the best offense in Major League Baseball. Okay. That's the way I look at it. And I understand some people will say, well, you can turn on a game and it looks like this. But what people fail to understand is at the end of the year, when you look at your numbers and say, okay, we're scoring way more runs than a lot of these teams in baseball. Well, the reason for that is that your floor is pretty high for scoring runs, right? These type of games don't happen as often for the Yankees as they did in the past. Okay. That's just the way it is. If you watch all these other teams, you would see they score one as well against some pretty bad baseball teams, against some pretty favorable matchups offensively, and yet they'll lay an egg. So I came into this game thinking the Yankees would take care of business. They didn't. But I will say this, Baltimore, it almost seemed like they weren't deploying this, but it just seemed to work out that way. It was a bend, don't break defense, if you will, right, in NFL terms. That's exactly what happened. The Yankees put out traffic, and they didn't get the big hit, which is a concern. And not a concern, it's a question mark, right? This is a question mark for this Yankees team. When you face some of the better teams in baseball or the teams that are really on your plate to go beat in October, when you come up with third and second with one out or third and second with two outs and you fall behind 1-2 in a count, are you going to fight to get back in the count and then get that big hit, right? To avoid these frustrating losses, that's something they need to answer. Now, I expect them to get back up off the canvas and throw a punch tomorrow, but again, they have to do that for themselves. I'm going to be in the stands. Jake's going to be in the stands. I'm not picking up a bat, right? I have no influence on how they get up tomorrow. But if they look at this thing and say, well, we've got a pretty comfortable lead, we know what the odds are for us to win the AL East. If that's the way they're approaching this, just know that's a bad habit. And you're going to go into October feeling comfortable. No team in baseball, I don't care who you name, should feel comfortable going in October. Unless you're talking about like the 98 Yankees. There is nobody that's showing up and saying, yeah, we're just the better team. We can shortcut this process. Matter of fact, we're not going to treat these games like do or die 2 weeks before October ball. So, yeah, Jake, as you mentioned with Clarke Schmidt, I think we're just supremely high on this guy. We just are. If it really came down to it, winner take all playoff game tomorrow, I think he's probably one of the names I throw out there to start that game. So as far as I'm concerned, he gave up some big hits. It's unfortunate, but that does happen in baseball. It's just up to your team to answer that. We didn't.
Absolutely. Well, I want to say, before we wrap this up, I want to talk about the field level shout outs. Got to throw those out. Want to remind everyone you can now become a member on the channel again because, we're out of the YouTube TVA bubble. So be sure to, I had to call it something. So if you want to become a member, be sure to hit that join button. If you can't find the join button and you're like me, then just use the link. It'll be posted below in the comments and the description, as well as the podcast link. Because some of you might be like, I love Gary, but I can't stare at Gary's face just frozen. So if that's the case and you are one of those people, well, you can go and head on over to wherever you get your podcasts and download the audio format. And if you're trying to meet up with us in any capacity, probably makes sense to be a part of our Discord community. Can't guarantee anything. Trust me, I've been this route, trying to meet up with people at MetLife Stadium, as a Rams creator. And I just happened to run into some of the people that wanted to meet up. But I mean, there's a lot of people. It's a giant stadium. You can't just expect we're going to be able to know exactly where you are or you know exactly where we are. So we'll try and see who we can. And if you recognize us, we're not hard to spot. Just come right up and say hi. So that's what I'll say about that. But field level shout outs: Juan Cepeda, Kid from LI, Carlos Marrero, Jeff J, Ed W, Brian Fuchs, Ryan Hoffman, Rich Squires, Joshua Halleckman, Egyptian Magician, Nick Gomes, Jalen Sestero, JT Roberts, Mickey G, Ronnie. And we got 2 mailbags from Ed W because Ed just really wanted to get some things off his chest. All right. Do you agree if up 2-1, you would pitch Cole the way probably you would be facing elimination, or would you go with a 4th starter? So He put a lot in there, so I was just kind of paraphrasing that, the ending. But basically, he said he knows we've advocated for Rodon to go to the bullpen. It doesn't seem like any option is possible other than him being the number 2 starter, given Rodon's contract, which I agree. I think that's how they're probably going to use him. That leaves great pitchers on the bench to pitch 4th. For me, the decision of whether to start 3 or 4 pitchers depends upon whether the Yankees are up 2-1 or facing elimination at game 4. So basically, how do you see that, Gary? Because like for me, if I'm facing elimination, I have to go down with my ace.
This reminds me a lot of the Baltimore Orioles back in the day with Zach Britton. Zach Britton, and I believe it was Buck Showalter actually, left his best arm in Britton in the bullpen, never pitched him. And his explanation was, well, if it came down to it and we needed him later in the series, we wouldn't have had him. But one thing that was unfortunate for Buck there, they never got a chance to see that, right? Because you left your best arm out there. Completely agree. If Garrett Cole's pitching like the Garrett Cole that you know and love, then yeah, you throw him on the mound regardless. You go out of turn, you go out of order, and you make that happen. And if you lose, then so be it. One thing I know for certain is that Garrett Cole's not going to go out there and get shelled. He's an ace for a reason. His baseline is incredibly high. So yeah, you throw him out there. If it's 2-1, your back's up against the wall, you throw out your best punch, you throw the hook. And if it doesn't work, you go home.
It's that simple. Like straight up. No, I agree. And we've seen it before. I mean, if Garrett Cole is pitching on, too soon of, a start, right? And he just didn't get enough rest, you'll find that out.
Yeah.
Early on, you could make the hook, but I'm 100% rolling in with Cole if it's a winner take all. Oh, if it's a elimination game, which I guess also could be considered a winner take all. That's still possible.
Yeah, some people look at that and say, well, I've seen Garrett Cole go out there on short rest and then he's just not ready. It's like, well, there's no foolproof plan in baseball. There's no plan that doesn't have a hole, right? In October ball. All of it can fail. When Madison Bumgarner came out on 2 days rest in the World Series, you guys really think analytics said that would work? No. But they threw him out there anyways. Why? Because they knew he was the best pitcher. That was it. It was just that simple. They rolled with it, and it won the Giants a World Series. So to answer the question, if the Yankees come out there and there are no other answers other than to throw your best guy out there, I think that's something I feel confident in. And then at that point, you have to put the emphasis on the offense to come out and do their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget, the Diamondbacks against the Yankees in the World Series. I mean, they pretty much only used Randy Johnson, Curt Schilling, which is crazy when you think about it. But
that seems like a cheat code.
If those guys, have the stamina, why not? I mean, if I knew ahead of time, Garrett Cole could give me 3 games, I'd start him 3 games in a row.
I agree. Just go softball on him.
Yeah, but I mean, he wouldn't be able to do that, obviously. But, well, who knows? I guess who totally knows? I don't know. The last thing that Ed put out there was, this was interesting. So we were talking about home and the road. And so he was talking about how the Yankees suck at comebacks. For me, the most significant edge for home field in the playoffs is that it is impossible to play a home game with a 2-0 deficit. The Astros 2022 LCS taught me that coming in 2-0 and then 3-0 took the fans out of the game from the jump. It looks like we have it all but locked up for the LCS, but I would really look ahead and press to pass as many National League teams as possible. You've focused on performance in games at home versus road when analyzing home field, but what about this angle? Any thoughts?
Well, playing from behind. Who does play well from behind? Nobody.
Yeah.
Everybody loses. I understand. So I want people to understand, as the last thing we really are talking about here, is that when a team falls behind 2-0 in a series, or they fall behind 2 or 3-0 in a game, there's a reason that Fox, TBS, right, all these networks, Yes Network, they pop up a graphic that says teams that are losing after the 5th inning, here's their record. Is that record ever good, Jake? No, it's
No,
not. It's never a good record. So if
no.
you think you watch the Yankees and you see them go behind 1-0, 2-0, maybe down 4-1 in the 2nd or 3rd inning, and you think, man, it just doesn't seem like this team can throw a punch and get back into the game. Well, I hate to break it to you. There's a reason that we play the 1st and 2nd inning. Those innings are very important. If you go down 3 or 4 runs or you go down 2-0 in a series, we play those games because it establishes dominance early in a series. Don't go down 2-0. There's your answer. So if you're worried that this Yankees team doesn't come back well from 2-0 or 3-1 in a series, or maybe it's split 2-2 and you say, I just don't like the way this feels. Well, then there's nothing we can do about that. Don't lose game 1 or game 2. Go out, and when Garrett Cole's on the mound, right, when Clarke Schmidt's on the mound or a Luis Hill, go win those games. That way, we don't have to talk about comebacks. You did your job early in the series, and now you reap the rewards later.
Well said. I agree. I definitely agree. Ed, we appreciate you, as always, for your contributions, and we hope to see you. I know Ed is trying to meet us at the game.
Beautiful.
So, yeah.
Am I the movie, by the way?
That's, I think so, because I think I said The Purge.
You did say The Purge, so I've got the perfect movie. So since I was likely frozen, I don't know how my audio was. I would assume it's okay, but I'm going to go with the movie Frozen since I was probably frozen.
I like it. It's funny because I kind of spoiled the movie because I was like, oh, yeah, let's just do Empire Strikes Back. And it's like, well, I already said it at the beginning, so they just would have given it away. Yeah. So I like that. But yeah. So put in the comment section, Frozen. No idea how it's going to go down for tomorrow's episode because we'll be at the game. The game will go until 10-ish unless we get extra innings. Watch this be like a 21-inning game.
Dude, we're going to be beat during that podcast. I don't know how we're going to record it, but we'll try and figure it out.
Yeah, So yeah, it's it'll be around 10, and then I have a 3-hour. I still don't know. I think I'm gonna drive to Croton Harmon, and then I'll take the train in. I don't know. I still haven't figured it out, but
I think you should drive in just completely, so that way you can take us to Joe's Pizza after the game.
Not gonna drive in completely because one thing. So you know how like everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. Like Verdugo can't hit. I can't drive in cities.
Wait, you can't drive what, in the city?
I just can't do it. My anxiety is too much. I can't drive in New York City. I can drive in other cities. Like
That's fair.
But New York City, I can't do it.
Yeah, I actually told my wife, I said, what do you want to rent a car when you get to the city? She goes, I don't really think you should drive in the city. I was like, geez, I didn't realize it was like that. So yeah, obviously it must be very difficult to drive in the city. I know everyone here drives like a maniac. And they all think they're really good drivers, but I guess you just got to give it to them.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the thing, like when I go to New York City, like with my dad, he'll drive, but like none of my friends will drive. They all take the train. I take the train. So yeah, nope. I like my car too much. I don't want, I mean, just think about that, right? We're going to the game and then I get into, it's like, bruh. So
yeah,
hopefully that doesn't happen on my way to the train station now. Definitely knocking on wood. But yeah, tomorrow, looking forward to it. Point I'm making for everybody else is I won't be back until 1 or 2 a.m., which is, wow, I guess really the show won't be any different.
This is true. So Frozen in the comments.
Frozen in the comments. Maybe Joe's Pizza after the game. Who knows?
Maybe. Right. Like this video.